I could build a spaceship.
Hello and welcome to Space Doc Jury Minisode number 28. I'm Lee.
I'm Peter.
And I'm Andy.
And this week, following on from last time, our last minisode where we did Star Trek movies, which came out with a rather predictable top, but not such a predictable bottom as we later found out, we decided to cast our eye upon the Star Wars universe, what with 8 actual movies, bearing in mind we're counting Rogue One in here as well, but we are not counting TV movies or 2-part episodes of Clone Wars or whatever that have been shunted onto into the cinema as a last-minute thing. So you're completely clear of Caravan of Courage. No one need worry. No. Anyway,
also we have no Capote huts in this one either.
No. There's no Truman Capote huts or pointless sort of minisodes of Samuel L. Jackson characters without the voice because they couldn't afford it, jumping around killing CGI robots. So. So what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what we did last time. We're going to go through the top 8, as it were, as it currently stands, and work out what we think is the worst of the films and the best, and basically put them in some kind of meaningful order in my hastily scrambled together Excel spreadsheet that has been done just by me like seconds ago.
Highly scientific, this process.
Highly scientific.
The ink is still wet.
Yes, exactly. And I've just noticed that our initials, according to Excel, suddenly spell out the word lap. So that's good.
Excellent.
Yeah. Make of that what you will.
Of course, if you go the way around, it could be PAL.
Well, yeah. Or Alp.
Alp.
Yeah. But it's just the way it landed.
Yes.
Yeah.
This episode of Space Jury brought to you by the letters L, A, and by the number P.
What? Anyway, so let's go through it. We're going to go through them in story episode order. So, in case anyone gets distracted by the sudden appearance of Rogue One about midway through. And
episode 3.85.
Yes, exactly. 3.9925 or so whatever. What was it we worked out? 3.997 or something stupid like that?
Something like that.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, let's go through it. I mean, what do we all think of, say, The Phantom Menace?
Shit. It's shit.
And we've got
it's shit. It's shit.
We've got a score of 1 to 8.
0. Mark it 0.
No.
Motherfucker 0.
It has to score something, even if it's just 1.
I abstain, man, because it's fucking shit.
But is it, though?
Yes.
I mean...
yes, it is.
No, I mean, I'm talking about comparatively here.
Okay.
I'm just talking about... Because...
Okay, I get what you're saying. All right, fine.
Yeah.
So you're saying 1 to 8.
Yes.
With 1 being the best and 8 being the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it go? I'll put it as 7.
Ah, same here.
So you would say it was not the worst, but...
It's complicated, but I can't really talk about it until we get to the next one.
Yeah. Well, no, we can talk about it.
Okay, fundamentally. I think that Attack of the Clones is worse than Phantom Menace to me, because Phantom Menace, I think the model work was still very good. You know, that's what we expect from Star Wars.
Yeah.
And if you take out most of the CG elements, if you take out anything with Jake Lloyd in there, if you just take it as in the world, I think it's pretty much the only one of the prequel films that kind of really feels like it's in the world of Star Wars. Especially the opening, the shuttle landing on thingy. It feels like when that Republic cruiser lands on the Trade Federation ship, it felt like a Star Wars thing. You know, that feels right.
Right.
Anyways, but the reason why I put this above Attack of the Clones is I kind of hope this was just a single misstep. Yeah. I thought this was just like he's getting back into the groove.
Yeah.
It was only when we got to Attack of the Clones I realised how doomed we were.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of... The thing with Phantom Menace for me, and it's always a difficult one, I mean, sorry, Pete. I've kind of rolled over the top of you. Let you can have a point. I'll say something in a second. But for me, it's always the thing with Phantom Menace is it feels like there's bits of a good film in there, but it's padded out and badly. and so
there's a good 40 minutes in there, I reckon.
yeah, a sort of it would have been a good minisode,
Yes.
sort of like a sort of prequel, sort of I don't know, like a sort of
Appetizer.
yeah, like a little teaser webisode thing before you started watching the main sequels.
I mean, let's face it, it made a fantastic trailer.
Yes, it was. It was a fantastic trailer, and people.
The trailer was great, and for all his flaws, Duel of the Fates and everything with Darth Maul there, it's pretty cool.
But that adds up to about 7 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, and again, that's why it's 7, not any further up.
And Pete, how did you think? You said a 7, I think. Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, likewise, there are a few scenes that make it vaguely worth watching, but there's a lot that isn't.
Yeah. So
That long scene around the dining room table, I'm looking at you. Oh boy, that one he just really loose.
Yeah, and anything with Jar Jar or Jake Lloyd, or
But the one thing I would say is that it had some sterling work from Mr. Liam Neeson. I thought he was excellent in it.
Even Ewan McGregor as well, to be honest, playing a young Padawan ObiWan, I think worked.
Yeah, when he changed size between filming the Moulin Rouge and whatever.
Yes.
But never mind. And that was always interesting.
Yeah, I'd have loved to see more of Qui-Gon Jinn in the prequels at all.
Yeah, I would have done too. I think it was a massively missed opportunity, and that was the problem. For me, it was just kind of a meh film by the end of it. I mean, I know I've had extreme reactions on the Black Dog to it, but it's always because I kind of go back in knowing that I've got 2 hours to get through, as opposed to it's a terrible, terrible film. It's just 2 hours of just watching missteps, rather than an actively awful movie. It's just boring.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
It's again. I think with Phantom Menace, the reason we had such a visceral reaction initially was because we had so much high hopes for it.
We had the hype.
We had all of the hype. I mean, and this was, I don't want to say it was the birth of hype, but maybe it kind of was. This was kind of a first film when the internet really jazzed it up, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, again, the reason why I put Attack of the Clones below this was. Jake Lloyd is a kid at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, Lucas is not good at directing actors.
Nope.
Straight up say that. So, you look at some of the dialogue he's got, I reckon if he had a better director, like Irving Kershner in Empire sort of thing, someone who knows how to get the best out of the actors, it might have worked.
Yeah.
But when we get into Attack of the Clones, when you have Hayden Christensen, who was a good actor, he's been in good films, but... Yeah, he sounded worse than Jake Lloyd in those films.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Right. Okay. So, I'm just so everyone keeps track. I'm putting that in 7th place, as well. So, yeah. Right. So, what about Attack of the Clones then?
That's the shit. That's the shit. That's the shit.
That is the shit. Is it? That's the one.
That's the really bad one because we had hopes that, okay, fine. Bit of a misstep on the first one, but, he's back in the groove. He knows what he's doing. Hayden Christensen, he's a good actor sort of thing. We could do that. None of this awkward Natalie Portman being whatever she was, 16, and Jake Lloyd being 5. They're on an even keel sort of thing. Obi-Wan has got his beard now. He's a full Jedi Master. And we're going to see literally the Clone Wars, something we've heard about since A New Hope. This epic But, yeah... As it turned out, it was fucking Prometheus syndrome, where the promise of a thing was so much more than what we got. And the CG is so bad. I mean, you can see it in their eyes. They're reacting to nothing. But the absolute worst thing about Attack of the Clones can be summed up in one word.
Go on.
Diner.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the thing... Okay, well, Pete, what do you think of the Attack of the Clones before I dive in again?
Well, yeah, it's poop. I think that the most annoying poop about it was the fact that we had, not a single piece of clone trooper armour made. Why? Why was it necessary to create them all by CG? I mean, Gungans, fair enough. You're not going to get a suit to look anything like that. No makeup's going to achieve that. Fair enough, use CG.
Yeah.
But we've had stormtroopers for years that have looked perfectly brilliant.
Yeah.
Why suddenly do we have to have CG clone troopers? Madness.
Yeah. This is, well, I mean, to be quite honest, for me, the CG clone troopers weren't the problem. In fact, for the longest time, I had a lot of respect for clones. I think it was only later that it really bugged the shit out of me. But initially, I mean, I don't know whether it was relief that it wasn't Phantom Menace again, or the fact that there was actually Jedi doing their stuff, or the fact that, for the most part, there is actually like a sort of detective story going on with ObiWan, which I thought was actually quite a good story in and of itself.
Oh, I will say this now. Throughout all of the prequels, Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi is the high point.
He's got even more charm in Attack of the Clones, I would argue.
He's got even more charm.
He's not in Phantom Menace that much, whereas Attack of the Clones is a bit more about him. And he's fine. He's perfectly serviceable.
I would say this: Ewan McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan is probably, if not the best, one of the top 3 performances in all of Star Wars.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh,
that's strong words.
Yeah. But it's just that's the level I put his performance. Yeah. It's a delight to watch him because he's loving it. He's having fun.
Yeah.
And he really brings it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, again, I think that Attack of the Clones is it's a film of two halves, and the half with Obi-Wan doing his detective work that starts off in Coruscant, then leads to Kamino and his showdown with what's his name, Jango Fett, and then his inevitable sort of like thing on Geonosis. I think that on its own is actually a perfectly fine and serviceable film.
Again, another short like that would be fine.
Exactly, almost like a TV episode or a two-parter.
Yeah,
and that is fine, absolutely fine. The problem comes with clones tends to come from the fact that you end up with I hate sand. Yeah, it's the romance. It's everywhere. It's the need for a romance. And that's the problem.
And from someone who can't write romance to save their life.
No, exactly. So, I mean, I don't really put it down as the next worst film. I mean, in one half I do. I mean, one half is just stupid, but the other half is just a solid, good film. I mean, the only reason if I stuck it down at sort of eighth position would be purely because I couldn't in good conscience put the others any lower, below it, if you know what I mean. It's not that it's actually a bad film, it's just a half of a bad film. And the bits that are bad are really bad.
Yeah, they are so eye-tearing out bad.
The
bad in Attack of the Clones is far worse than the bad in Phantom Menace.
Sorry, I've just seen the thing that got sent through on the Skype. Sorry, you're exactly the way I remembered you in my dreams. Aggressively presses the panic button. Anyway, so yeah, I guess I'm going to have to put it down as 0. But in some, the 8th place. But in some ways, I might go back and redo Phantom Menace. I might put Phantom Menace at the bottom actually, and give Clones 7th place. Because there's actual moments of Clones where I felt excited and engaged, whereas in Phantom Menace I just fell asleep, to be honest.
No, I mean for me, I'm because the bad is just so bad, and also even the bits where you're supposed to be excited in the action, like the Jedi arriving to battle, you can tell it's all shot against a green screen. They have that vacant expression because there's nothing for them to interact with. Yeah, and it's just this is the tragedy of the prequels above all else is that these actors and all this, they don't have anything, to react to. They're nothing to interact with. They're literally staring at green screens while riding green speeder bikes or what have you, holding a green prop. And it comes across in the performances a lot of the times. You really just don't feel like they're engaged.
Yeah.
And again, you got again, the smaller bits when it's just Ewan McGregor, that's fine. And I agree with you. That would make a great little small. That would have made a great episode of the Clone Wars TV show.
Yeah.
If you just take that story out, animated it,
Yep.
that'd be fine. I'd have loved that.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, it's just so bad and clunky. The dialogue is appalling. The and it is a forced romance, is pathetic. I mean, that meme I sent across where she's aggressively tapping a panic button. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty accurate because that's creepy as fuck coming from him.
Yeah.
I mean, the only saving grace you have in Attack of the Clones is they pretty much wrote all of Jar Jar out of it. So we have all of one cameo with him in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Okay, so what about you, Pete? What are you going to give it? 0, I guess.
Yeah, it's
last
at
place.
the bottom of the pile.
Right,
yeah,
last place.
And also the Count Dooku stuff there is really irritating as well. Or Darth Tyranus or whatever we're calling him this week. That's just such an underwritten part. And you got Christopher Bloody Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, and also you got that whole shitty thing of them revealing the Death Star.
Oh, yes. Oh, and the crappy ant people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we needed them.
Okay.
We've never seen again. Oh.
No, I mean, I can't argue with any of this stuff. I'm not. I just think that for the scenes with that's why I hate space travel, as he's being chased around the asteroids with Slave One belting at him, and the whole thing of going into the bar. Does anybody want to eat death sticks? You want to go home and rethink your life? I'm going to go home and rethink my life. All this kind of stuff started to feel more like Star Wars. And yeah, there was a massive Nintendo platformer bit at the end.
Oh gosh, yes. I just watching it, pressing the triangle square button, triangle square to dodge the stuff.
Exactly. Duck,
up,
kick,
down,
jump.
up, down, left, right, A, B square.
Yeah. Exactly. So
I will just say that what I think it is Phantom Menace on the whole is let's just say a median level of bad with a couple of high points. With Attack of the Clones, I think the low points are a lot lower, and it has a few higher points, but those few higher points are not enough to counteract the amount of shit in it.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, the bottom line is you promise a film about the Clone Wars. You really need to deliver the Clone Wars, not just like the opening salvo.
Yeah.
Cut to Yoda going, begun the Clone Wars have. No, finish this film has, you've just wasted my time.
Yeah. Time wasted you have.
Yes. Money wasted you have.
Okay, then. Well, speaking of which, let's move on to the next one. Revenge of the Sith. So, where would this come in your top 8? Andy?
After you, Pete. No, Pete can go first.
Pete can go first. Go on.
Right, well, it's sitting there just above Phantom Menace, basically. It's the best of the worst.
Best of the worst. Wow. So, yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Just because, I mean, it's got some serious dark stuff in there. Very surprisingly dark stuff in there, almost out of character dark stuff compared to what's come up to this point. Yeah. And it's got some good stuff in it. I like the clone troopers are a lot better realised in this one, it has to be said. Obviously, the arm is a bit closer to stormtroopers as well. Yeah, and the story's okay. I mean, we know where it's going, but then again, that was the case anyway, wasn't it? So... Yeah, it's okay. It's the opera stuff that tries my patience in this one. That goes on way too long with all the weird music going on in the background.
What?
We're listening to whales or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tell me, Peter, have you ever heard the tragedy of Famous the Wise?
No, I don't give a monkeys.
Okay, fair enough. So you're putting that at the kind of meh sort of sixth position. Mm-hmm. Okay, what about you, Andy?
Controversial here. I'm putting it 5th.
Interesting. Okay.
So explain my thinking. Revenge of the Sith, I think if you could separate it from the previous 2 films, just take it on its own. I mean, if this had been the only prequel, I don't think it would have gotten anywhere near the level of hate it gets. It is almost a good film. It's mostly let down, I think, by the dialogue and the delivery of some of that dialogue. But the opening space battle, for me, is still superb. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
I think Anakin comes across a lot better. You know, he's starting to seem like someone we could see as Vader, which we just haven't seen up until this point. I mean, he's been a fucking kid and a whiny little stalker.
Yeah.
You know, now we're starting to really get a sense of darkness. Plus, I don't know if this helped, but I'd seen a lot of the Clone Wars cartoon prior to this, the 2D version, which just fleshed out the character a little bit more, gave a bit of backstory. So I was more engaged with him in this. It made sense.
He was far more three-dimensional in that cartoon than he was played by an actor, wasn't he?
yes, both literally and figuratively. But Ewan McGregor again is fantastic. Yeah. I think this is where he really came into his own as Obi-Wan, and you really started to feel he was Obi-Wan Kenobi as opposed to Alec Guinness.
Yes,
nothing to take away from Alec Guinness, but this is when he really became the role. I liked the way the Emperor's plan kind of finally comes to fruition here. And, you know, the parts, the dice finally stack up and it's in place. And again, for all the clunky dialogue, which is appalling, freely admit the dialogue is shit. But the final battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin on Mustafar, pretty much, if you take the dialogue out and you just watch it as a battle between these two brothers and all this, it really does have some weight. It's just undercut by, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Yeah.
I've heard the best way to watch Revenge of the Sith is to actually watch in a different language with subtitles. Yeah. Because the delivery's not quite so harsh. The effects in it still stand up really well. They stand up better than any of the other prequels, with the exception of some of the model work in Phantom Menace. I mean, I did watch it quite recently, and the opening space battle is just amazing.
Yeah.
As far as the bad... For me, the bad is General Grievous is given a major disservice in the film compared to what we see in, again, the Clone Wars cartoon. Because in the Clone Wars cartoon, he's fucking terrifying. In this, he's pretty much asthmatic.
Yeah, but then they do explain that, because at the end of the Clone Wars, he gets basically bitch slapped by Mace Windu.
Yeah, he pretty much crushes his lungs. But it's like, well, why wasn't that in the film?
Yeah.
Yes. That would have forgiven it.
Yeah.
And the final reveal of Darth Vader is poorly.
All together now. No.
It's like we've been waiting, I don't know, what was it, 20, 25 years at that point for James Earl Jones to come back as Darth Vader, and he fluffed his lines.
Pardon me?
I mean, they should never have had Hayden Christensen in the suit. They should have gotten someone with the body mass and who felt like Vader to be there. And yeah, again, the dialogue's just appalling. But for all that, I feel that the effects stand up well. Most of the performances are okay, dialogue notwithstanding. And it really drove the story forward. It really did kind of connect the Clone War period to A New Hope. I mean, at the end of it, it doesn't feel like quite the jarring jump from the Republic to the Empire. It's like you look at where they are at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith to where they are at the end with the Grey Star Destroyers. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So that's why, for me, I'm putting it at 5.
Okay. I'm going to be really controversial here, and I'm going to put it at 4th.
I might have meant to put it at 4th, actually. I think I've miscounted.
What? Okay.
Okay, but it was, I'm putting it after the original trilogy.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going. Well. Okay. Let's. Well, I'll keep your scores where they are right now. When we hit the bottom, we'll have a little rethink, perhaps. But basically, I'm putting it at 4th. And the reason I'm putting it 4th is because, for me, it was the Star Wars prequel I always wanted. And the irritations and the problems that we get in this film are irritations and problems that we get in pretty much every other Star Wars film, barring Empire. And at that point, it suddenly becomes, well, what's your preference at that point? And I think that this film does something which almost all the other Star Wars films fail to do, which gives you a sense of actual something happening in this sort of a galactic sense.
There's that whole sequence when the temple's on fire, and just it's a moment of silence in the film, and I really like that moment to breathe with Padme just looking across and the temple's on fire.
Yep,
it moments like that. It's like you were so close, George.
Yeah,
so close.
Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff that was done by that was directed or assistant directed by a certain Mr. S. Spielberg Esquire.
Yes, and I think that was one of the moments. You get the sense it's like, I mean, I know you don't like that bit with the opera people. I actually do quite like that bit.
It becomes
again, it's a nice little pause.
And it's also giving you a reason for Anakin's actions, and you see finally some of the Emperor's sort of machinations, as opposed to stuff's going on in the background. We don't tell you why, but a guy in a hood will turn up and go, "Kill them," and then just disappear again.
It's all a bit on the nose. I mean, the fact that he's got all these various Sith statues and murals on the wall, it's all a bit of a giveaway, really, isn't it?
Well, exactly, but that's for the Star
let's face
Wars
it,
hardcore.
anyone with two eyes will work. I mean, the entire Jedi Council couldn't see this guy walking around dressed in black. It's like, hello!
Yeah, pretty much twiddling a Terry Thomas moustache. But
yeah,
I mean, but the thing is, the problem's about dialogue being on the nose as opposed to being terrible, just being on the nose and being straight up flat and stuff like that, and the fact that there's moments which just feel like, well, you just think, well, come on, get on with it, sort of thing. That's a problem that could be leveled at every other Star Wars film except Empire. So at that point, you're now into a kind of, well, what do you prefer? Gorgonzola or Stilton? It's they're both cheeses, and they both have their own problems. But you're going to have a personal preference, and for me, Sith, for its conclusion of Anakin, ObiWan, I think was absolutely the fight you wanted to see, and it is as good as you wanted to see it.
You were my brother, Anakin.
I could have done with
chosen one.
I could have done with a bit less of jumping up and down various robot platform things. So again, it felt a bit computer gamerish, that bit.
But it did a little bit, but it was so much better than what we'd seen, both with Maul and Qui-Gon and thingy, and also Yoda versus Darth Tyranus, which was just Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that's the low watermark, isn't it? It's like, I can do this with CG now. No, you can't.
But interestingly, they did such a much better job with Yoda versus the Emperor.
That is better, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, when Yoda just walks in and there's the two Imperial guards on either side of the door, and he just flicks his hand and they both just go flump down.
Yeah,
it's just, and it's like, and the Emperor is clearly deranged, is sort of leaping about, laughing like a mad thing.
And Yoda almost manages to pull it off as well. That's the nice bit about it. So you get a feeling this is a fight.
You almost get the impression if he'd have taken Obi-Wan with him, he might have won.
Yeah. And then you get sequences like the Order 66, which
is again a really nice little moment.
Fantastic montage across a number of a number of planets, and then all of a sudden it's just like the betrayal getting galactic sort of scope, and it's a kind of
watching that after the Clone Wars as well. Once you've gotten to know these Jedi like Shakti and what was his name, the one with the goggles, Plu or something like that.
Yeah. Plu Kloon.
Yeah. When you see him go down, and it's just a flash on here, but you've spent these 5 or 6 seasons getting to know him, and it's like, no.
Well, you may have done, or in my case, probably not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But my point is, if you look at Revenge of the Sith as the final of the Clone Wars series, it really works in that sense. It's like it really culminates everything they built up to that point.
Yeah.
Even Cody turning on Obi-Wan is kind of tragic.
Yeah.
Given how close they are in that.
In Utapu, I mean, and that's the thing. It's an almost there movie.
Yeah. It's like you said with Generations. It's with Nemesis. It's one good edit away from being a good film.
Yes. Exactly.
Well, actually, it's one good edit and a few reshoots. But
yeah, exactly. Okay, well, so
can I just again just single out because a certain gentleman of our acquaintance did supply to me recently. The score is fucking amazing.
Yes,
I adore the score for this film.
That
opening sequence with the war drums, so good.
Flum dum 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 flum dum flum dum dum dum. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Don't worry. Don't matter. Anyway, so
just for the record, it's my 4th place as well.
Okay, so it's 4th place. Okay, so, see, second time I've managed to do this. Talk up a score.
Well, to be fair, I just miscounted before because I forgot about Force Awakens.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so let's move on to the 4th movie in the chronological storyline, which is Rogue One. So where would you put Rogue One in your top 8 movies, in your place of 1 to 8, Pete?
Well, this is kind of difficult because I've only seen it once. Both Rogue One and Force Awakens a little harder to judge, just because Force Awakens I may have seen 4 times. Rogue One I've literally seen once. So
okay.
I'm literally going from first impressions on that one, and I really enjoyed it. It's got its flaws, but fewer flaws than the prequels in my book. So I've got that as my number 4.
Okay, it's your as your 4th place.
It feels far more Star Wars than the prequels do to me, but there we are.
Okay, and Andy?
It's my 5th.
Interesting, because I actually had it pegged down as my 5th as well. Why your reasons before I get into mine? Because I'm sure we've done this on enough minisodes now, but
we've done it a lot. I mean, again, I saying it's its 5th does kind of seem like it's been marked down, and even more so for what ends up being my 6th. But I just felt that it didn't do quite enough to move the story forward, but that's largely the constraints of the story it is. We know our in point, we know our out point.
Mind the gap.
And while we do know that with the prequel films, there was so much space between them and A New Hope. You had a bit of chance to experiment a little bit. Things were a lot more flexible in how they get to that point. But because this film literally takes you up to the beginning of A New Hope, it's very constrained in what it can and can't do. And I think, again, as you said, it feels a lot more like Star Wars. It feels the most like A New Hope than any film we've seen since A New Hope. It really captures that world.
Yeah.
Am I crackling?
Yep.
It feels the Star Wars film better than anything since then. They've really captured that world. And again, I adore that final space battle. That is fucking amazing. I love that it ties into Rebels. And that final scene with Vader. Oh, God, that's good. Yeah. But going back to the minisode we recorded after we both saw it, as Lee says, you're getting hyped really about the final third of the film.
Yeah.
Whereas the first act is really inconsequential. You can take it out entirely and it doesn't affect the film, not an iota. In fact, you can pretty much take out the entire first half of the film.
Yeah.
And nothing is altered whatsoever. If you just pick it up with them, arrive on Scarif, it's a big space battle, Darth Vader comes up, kicks shit up.
But then you wouldn't have had any investment in the characters. I mean, particularly...
To be fair, you don't really have enough time to get investment as it is.
Well, I was fairly invested, certainly, in it. Is it Jen? I can't remember her name now. I've seen it once.
I was really invested in that character, someone face.
I saw it once a month ago, so...
I think the problem here, and what would have worked better for me, is if this had been the basis for the prequel films, but this was the third of 3 films. Whereas in the first film, we meet the characters, meet Jin, Castellian, K2SO, Donnie Yang's character, meet them all in the first film sort of thing. They go through trials and tribulations together, building up the rebellion. And then in the final one, they finally do the mission to go and steal the Death Star plans. You'd feel the deaths a lot more. You'd feel the emotional investment there because you've come to know these characters. But because it's constrained to just one film, you don't have that opportunity to do it.
But arguably, of course, if they'd done that, then it's still a film for kids ultimately as well as adults, and that would be even more of a gut kicker then if there'd been characters that they'd built up a huge familiarity with. They got all the figures, and it's a bit like killing Optimus Prime in the Transformers movie,
Yeah. But you say that. I have to say, I think of all the Star Wars film, Rogue One was the one made least for the kids. I think it was. Yes. I think
that's a fair point, but I think
it's squarely made for us.
there's enough there for the kids. I mean, my kids, enjoyed it and weren't. I was slightly worried that they would be distressed at the end because I had a feeling I knew what was coming, and they seemed to take it okay actually. And I think that's because they hadn't built up so much attachment because they'd only met these people in this film. So,
yeah, I mean, I mean, for me, I'm the same as Andy, but for slightly different reasons. I just, for me, Rogue One is my 5th place movie simply because I literally thought that it was a film that was treading water, and the problem with a film that treads water is any film can tread water and just take its time doing whatever it does, but then use that time to get us into the characters. I mean, if you watch New Hope, we get basically introduced to Leia, Vader, Luke, C-3PO, R2-D2, Ben Kenobi, and Han. Arguably not lot with Chewie, to be honest, but all of those lot get clearly a moment where you get...
And R2 and 3PO, to be fair.
Exactly, R2 and 3PO. And, of course, Grand Moff Tarkin. And the thing is, with all of them, they're all lightly sketched. But the thing with them all being lightly sketched, they're lightly sketched in ways that are very clearly defined, and you're very... It doesn't take a lot just to pick up on who they are and what kind of heroic archetype or a villainous archetype they are. And Rogue One just span around the fucking toilet bowl for about half an hour just going, well, this is Cassian, or Blando Calrissian, as I keep calling him.
Yeah.
And
I kind of liked him, but I mean, there's not a lot to him, I'll grant you, but he was all right.
But 1 minute he's a cold, heartless killer, and 5 minutes later he's a... Yes, I'm out for myself, and then 2 minutes later he's a governmental assassin. I mean, it's just like pick a character and stick with it. And Jin obviously has got this kind of I'm after my father, I'm after my father, I'm after my father, I'm a rebel, I'm after my father, and it's like, yep. And what else? Nothing. Okay, right, fine, move on. And then the others are just literally just cameos to turn up, shout, make a couple of quips, and then die. And
handle exciting-looking weapons, to be fair.
Exactly. Or in the case of Forrest Whitaker, to turn up, babble a load of nonsense that could be...
He is definitely the weakest
utterly excised. I mean, you want to talk about shit that could have been taken out of edits from Phantom Menace or Clones or Sith. You could have literally lifted the entire Jeddah section completely out. You could have just gone, oh, we've landed on this planet. We found the rebel with the rogue pilot. Brilliant. Let's go. Fantastic. Off to an adventure. And that would have been 35 minutes of your time utterly saved.
I quite like the ground battle bit, though, with the tank and stuff. That's quite cool.
Yeah, but it's seconds. It's seconds within...
Good seconds.
Yeah. But
I mean, the Jeddah as an environment is great. I like it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'd like to spend time there, but we don't spend time there.
Because we haven't seen enough desert planets in Star Wars yet.
Mm. It's treading water, and that's why it's where it is for me. It's kind of a non-entity almost. But that's, to be fair, again, it's fleshing out one line from an opening crawl.
Mm.
And we know what happens before and after. Like I said, I think if it had been a trilogy where you'd had more adventures with these characters, if it had been almost like Rebels is, it was a Rebel cell, we get to know these characters, we get to know what they're doing, and it built up. Or better yet, if they'd have used the crew of the Ghost in this.
Yeah.
Again, in the same way Revenge of the Sith was like the end of the Clone Wars, if this had been the end of the Rebels TV series, it'd be like, okay, that's great, I'm invested in these characters, I know what they're about, and that's just fantastic. But as it is, it just doesn't do it. That being said, though, again, the space battle at the end is fucking amazing, and that final sequence with Darth Vader is fucking amazing.
Yeah, but, yeah.
That's all it is. It's just those bits.
Yeah.
So that's why it is where it is.
I fully admit I may well come round to your views on it once I've seen it a few more times. Certainly, the more times I've seen Force Awakens, it's kind of dropped slightly in my estimation.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
Yeah, we shall see.
Must be again in a year's time once it's come out on DVD and I've watched it a few times.
Yeah.
Well, no doubt after December, once the next one comes out, we'll have to revisit this anyway.
More than likely. Okie dokie. So, let's move on then to the next one in this series, which was Star Wars: A New Hope. So where are we with that, Pete?
Number one.
Is that number one for you? There you go.
I mean, it does alternate a bit with Empire, it has to be said. It partly depends on what sort of mood I'm in.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say at the moment I'm much more needing a new hope rather than
yes.
Empire striking back.
The Emperor is striking back enough as it is.
Exactly. There's too much of that in the world at the moment, so I'd much rather have an upbeat ending, thank you.
Absolutely. No worries. And, well, yes. There's not a lot to say about that, is there? It's like, it's number one. I love it. Yes, fair enough. And what about you, Andy?
It'll probably surprise no one, but for me it's number two. Specifically, though, I just want to address I'm talking about the original unedited version, not the special edition.
I don't really care about the special edition either way. most of it's just stuck in the opening sequences, which I don't mind so much. Excuse me, but yeah, no, and I often think that the ending being specialised is actually a good thing, because that X-wing flyby in the despecialised version really looks a bit wonky. But
I think it would benefit if they did it this year. If they had done the special edition issue with the current CGI, I'd have a lot less of an issue with it. I think when they did it, which was 97,
yeah.
It's. I know me and Pete have a, should we say, ongoing feud about CG spaceships.
Yeah.
This is an instance where I'd be with him.
Yeah.
When they go from models to CG, I find it very noticeable, and it's just becoming more and more noticeable as time goes on. Whereas I think if they were to do it now, give it another polish, it'd be fine.
Yeah. And what really gets to me with the special edition is you saw it in the trailer, because basically stupidly showed you pretty much all the special edition bits in the trailer to make you go and see the film, I guess.
Yeah.
And you get that, lock S4's an attack position, which is the big CG insert, and there's billions of fighters, and then the rest of it's just as it was before. So there's still only 3 X-wings and a couple of Y-wings floating around. You think, where did all the others go? What happened?
This is true. Right. Yeah. I mean, for me, I've got to put it in second place because Empire, which we will come to in a minute, holds a Wrath of Khan level place in my heart. It's just perfect movie making. So I can't. So by definition, New Hope has to go second. So as much as I love New Hope and I think it's a fantastic movie, and without it, we wouldn't even be talking about this shit. So you've got to give it props, and you can't. I can't knock it.
And the feat of producing it, with a much more limited budget and everybody against him, basically. I mean,
absolutely.
Say what you like about Lucas, I still think a lot of him just because of the original Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, if you read my beginner's guide to Star Wars: A New Hope, which I wrote in Sci-Fi Now issue 27. There was a lot of stuff he went through with A New Hope where even his friends didn't think he was. They all thought he was mad. And the best line, which I guess everyone's probably heard by now, but there's when he first shows it to his friends, he's got Steven Spielberg, Brian De Palma, Francis Ford Coppola, and I can't remember who the last one is.
Spielberg?
Spielberg. I thought I said Spielberg, but anyway, Spielberg's there. And they're all sitting there, and he shows it in his little private theatre, and he shows this film. But what he's got is he hasn't got all the effects finished. So he's got basically World War II footage of the Battle of Britain. And,
or Standbusters as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and 633 Squadron?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was all bits and pieces stuck in there. And basically he finishes it off, and the lights come up, and he looks around, and it's all silent. And apparently Brian De Palma just goes, "What the fuck was that shit?" And that always sticks with me. It's like you can imagine, like you can imagine, like when you're making a film or something, your best friends are probably the ones who are you're going to stick with you closest, and then they turn around and go, "What the fuck was that?" It's like, oh no. So yeah, you got to give him props for that, and all the thing about the British crews. Who were all unionised and so would stop for tea exactly at 12 o'clock and would not come back from tea until 20 past 12 and all this kind of shit, and then would end at 5 o'clock on the nose. Yeah, he did so much to get that done, and you got to give him props for that, absolutely. But no, Empire just holds it so much for me. So in terms of actual storytelling and dialogue and editing and pacing and everything, it's just perfection. So, unsurprisingly, moving on to Empire, that's my number one. So, yeah, that's my number one. And so, Pete, what about you? How do you feel about Empire?
Well, I say there are times when it's my number one. It depends what mood I'm in. And I definitely, the Hoth scenes are the high watermark of the Star Wars films. Anybody who's seen my Lego Star Wars collection will realise just how slightly obsessed I am with the whole stuff. That was always my favourite bit.
Yeah.
But it seems to spaff its wad a bit early for me, unfortunately. Particularly once they get to Cloud City. I don't know, it just feels like the oomph goes out and the whole bit of Yoda training Luke, which is important. You've got to have it. Yeah. But I don't know, I just was never quite so engaged with that. And then to sort of build up to such a down ending, I mean, sometimes that's what you want from a film, and that's cool. There are times when you want to watch Blade Runner, but there are other times, like we're in the moment, where you want to see something slightly more uplifting and cheer up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. So, okay, and what about, so where would you put it? Number 2, I guess, at this point.
Yep, it's my number 2.
Sure, number 2. And what about you, Andy? Where do you put it?
It's my number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to say, I disagree with Pete. I mean, again, I love the film in its entirety, but I love the stuff later on with Cloud City and everything there. It's that slow build-up. The second half of the film, you get all the really, really good character stuff. I mean, it starts off with the action, which is fantastic. And I love all of the stuff on Hoth, Death Squadron approaching. The asteroids field still is some of the best VFX we've seen ever.
Mr. Bronson corking it.
Oh yes, Mr. Bronson learning an important lesson of following orders. And again, it's strange enough, it's in this film. It seems like the cast have all figured out the characters properly, and I put this largely down to Irving Kershner and his direction. He's managed to install into them what their characters are, what their motivations are, where they're coming from, and you really start to feel that. Especially James Earl Jones and Vader. I mean, you really get a sense of menace and almost amusement, especially when you have like Captain Needa personally comes to apologise, after he's been throttled. He's almost jovial about it, as if like, oh, you thought you'd come and apologise and get away with it. That's so funny, yes. Dispose of this, please. But again, when you get into Cloud City, I mean, everything from when Luke lands and that bit when you see Vader and the breathing starts, the light comes on and goes, "The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet." And just the lightsaber, it just Luke's there, and then Vader just slowly ignites it and brings it up in like a fencing position.
Yeah.
And with no effort whatsoever. It's just like, Luke, he's been trained by Yoda. He's one with the Force now. He knows what he's doing. And Vader's just like, bitch, please.
Yeah. Hold my beer.
Exactly. and even later on when you see him going down the corridor and Vader's holding his breath. I mean, that is so cool. He's holding his breath and then he comes out from the shadows and he's breathing heavy because he's done that. And then he doesn't even have to fight. He's just throwing the scenery at him. It's just beneath him. It's brilliant. I love all that. I love the sense of betrayal on Han's face when he realizes Lando has sold him out. I love, the shock when he comes back from being tortured. He's just like, they didn't even ask me any questions. It's like, his world is collapsing. And who could forget the greatest setup for the romance ever is go, I love you. And it's just, I know. Another great improv moment. It's up there with him, just shooting the guy in Raiders.
Yeah.
It's up there. And that's why Harrison Ford was so great as Han Solo.
Yeah.
I just adore. I mean, hell, just before this started, we were just watching a clip from Empire while we had a spirited discussion, shall we say. But even so, we were like going, kind of don't want to do the minisode, we'd rather watch Empire.
Yeah. I can't disagree with any of that. I think it's character work, it's dialogue, it's
the music as well.
The music.
Imperial March comes from this film because it's not in A New Hope at all.
Yeah, and of course you got the entire score is just an absolute winner. I mean, the whole of CD2, which is essentially from Imperial March, Asteroid Belt, the final thing, the showdown on Bespin, the Rebel fleet, the sort of it's just so good. And
sorry, can I just go back to one more point I need to find? We take this for granted now, and it's a cliche, but how well done is the reveal that Vader is Luke's dad? Yes, it's such a fucking. I dearly wish I could watch Empire for the first time again without knowing that's the case, because it would blow my fucking mind.
Yeah.
And it's done so well. I mean, Mark Hamill plays that perfectly. Not just the initial, no, but the bit afterwards when he's on the Falcon and he's there, his hand's been cut off, he's wounded, he's hurt, he's lost Han. And he reaches out sort of thing, he goes, Vader goes, Luke. And he goes, Father. And then he just goes, Ben. Why didn't you tell me? It's just, the character stuff in this film is so on point.
Yeah.
So fucking good.
Yeah. It is. It's so well written. It's so well done. The dialogue, the acting, the effects, the pacing between essentially three stories is just brilliant.
It's almost a Shakespearean tragedy. It's that kind of storytelling there. It's just so good. Exactly,
and I don't. And the thing with it all is just that without it you wouldn't. You've got to, you could say, oh, Star Wars just happens and then that's the end and the Empire's defeated because the Death Star blows up. But Empire gives you everything else. Without Empire, there is nothing else.
This gives you the universe.
Yeah, because
Star Wars: A New Hope was a story. This is the universe, though.
Yeah, and for me, it is that whole thing of you just sitting there going, well, you know what, this has suddenly made Han Solo a proper hero. This has made Princess Leia a proper, a proper heroine. It's made Luke's journey. It's given him the full. It made Vader scary.
It made him properly scary. Scary. And again, it makes Han. It's the redemption of the rogue almost. He goes from needing to leave to go and pay off a bounty and all this to effectively sacrificing himself. I mean, I know he doesn't have a huge amount of say in it, but the way he does it and calming down Chewie and everything, so good. And Billy D. Williams coming into this cast and just fitting right in. He plays Lando, to perfection.
Yeah. Yeah, welcome to the cool
side of a pillow.
So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, for me, I just think it's just such a great film, and no matter how bad things are, you've got to just turn around and go, look, astounding work. Which leads us to Jedi, Return of the Jedi.
Shall I go?
Yes.
For me, it's going number 3.
Number 3 is
Yes.
your third place.
Yep.
Okay. What would you like to expand upon that, or?
Well, I know where we're going with this, and we're going towards the Ewok place. And yes, the Ewoks are stupid, and we're starting to see the influence of Mr. Spielberg focusing more so on his toy bottom line than the story.
You mean Lucas?
Lucas, yes.
Sorry,
Stephen. Please don't kill me. But I think that if you can look past the Ewok stuff, and I know it's hard to do, but if you can look past it, everything else in it I really enjoy. Even the stuff at Jabbas Palace sort of thing. I like the fact that we've come into this a period of time later. We don't know how long it is. Luke now he is the Jedi he thought he was when he went to face Vader. Now he is perhaps capable of standing up to him.
Yeah.
But he's very dark. It's like we don't quite know where he's going with this. He's dressed all in black. We've got, he makes it back to Yoda. Yoda dies, sort of thing. But it's a very touching little sequence, and we get the knowledge that there is another Skywalker, which is great. But for me, it comes down to the Battle of Endor, the space battle, which is utterly gorgeous. I love it, and everything with Palpatine in. Ian McDermott is just chewing that scenery. He is chowing down, and he is having so much fun doing it. And I will happily just watch a reel of just the Emperor, Luke, and Vader. That whole sequence is just so good. The bit when Vader's looking for Luke, sort of thing, and he goes, "Sister, so you have a twin sister. Obi-Wan was wise to hide her from me." And then if you will not turn, perhaps she will. And then Luke just goes, "No!" And he gives into his anger. And when the music builds at that point, it's so fucking good. I love it.
Yeah. What about you, Pete?
Yes, my number 3 as well.
Your number 3 as well.
And I suspect one of the reasons why it's rated so highly is just it was the first one I saw at the cinema. It was the first, I think, non-Disney film I saw at the cinema, remembering, of course, in those days, Star Wars weren't Disney films.
Technically not anymore.
yeah, but back in those days, anyway.
Yeah.
And it was just a real magical night out. And I'm still not that bothered by the Ewoks, to be honest. Yeah. They don't bug me that much. I mean, in some ways, in the comics, they were much more of a thing, and because obviously they had to sort of carry on for many years after Return of the Jedi, and a lot of the stuff obviously had to involve the Ewoks, and they got a bit darker, actually.
If I could quote Tim Beasley, Jar Jar makes your Ewoks look like fucking Shaft.
Yeah, I mean, You know what I was saying about clones, Attack of the Clones, where there are sequences in it which are genuinely fantastic and things that you genuinely like, but it's let down by the rest of the film. Mm-hmm. That's Jedi for me. The bits with Vader and Palpatine and Luke on the Death Star, the ensuing space battle outside, fantastic. The Ewoks, to be quite honest, I could take them or leave them. They do focus my ire somewhat, but the first half of that film is pure and utter bollocks.
Yeah, I quite like the Jabba stuff.
The Jabba stuff is...
I just want to qualify this. I am talking about the original cut, not the special edition with the CG fucking...
This probably suffers the most from the...
CG interference, yeah.
Yeah.
But even the despecialized editions, I mean, I'm just talking about the fact that whole plan, I mean, just purely from a story point of view, what was that plan? What was that plan?
Get Jabba out in the open, wasn't it?
What? Luke basically murderizes the entire three sail barges of people on his own, and yet...
Well, they were hardly Girl Scouts selling cookies.
No, but what I'm trying to say is he gets them out on it. The whole plan was to get Leia caught, to get Lando standing around inside the place, get the two droids caught.
It is massively overcomplicated. I can't disagree with that.
You know,
I hear he worked with Danny Ocean to come up with it.
Yeah, all of the characters, all of the heroes have to get caught, and not even particularly well done caught. I mean, Leia literally drags Chewie in on chains, and it's like, and for what? So that they could all end up on the same sail barge together. It's like, really? It's just, and then Luke walks in with a sort of shit-eating grin on his face and goes, "Yes, this is all according to my design. By the way,
I've learnt Jedi mind tricks.
Join, let him go, or free the Wookiee and everyone, and I won't bother you anymore." And it's just like, really? Has it come to this? And then what happens? It all turns into a big murder fest anyway. It's like, so what was that plan? And then on top of that, you've got Boba Fett, who has been basically cardboard cutout fan wankage for the last movie and a half, and suddenly he goes, right, okay, here we go. We're going to see him
Mr.
going.
Badass.
Here he comes.
Now, they did explain this in Robot Chicken, which I think is an entirely plausible explanation as to what happened.
Yeah, they might. Yeah, you know what? And if they stuck that in the beginning of Return of the Jedi, I probably would have let that go. But the thing was, they didn't. They had super badass land, fire a rope around a Jedi, be defeated by said Jedi cutting the rope, then being defeated by a blind man with a stick pointing in the opposite direction. Everything about that opening 40 minutes is complete toss.
Even the Rancor?
Yes, especially the goddamn Rancor, because what was that all about?
I love the Rancor.
It's
a bit when it dies and the guy kind of pushes by.
God.
That kicks you in the feels. Like, oh,
no, it doesn't kick you in the feels.
And Jabba himself has never been bettered. I mean, they've done him in CG since. He's never looked as real as he does in there.
Well, it's that, but the voice and I mean, again, this was like the first time back to real aliens since the Cantina, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's great.
This is Cantina with a budget, basically.
Exactly, and the voice was awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, it was just... For me, right up to the actual sequence after Yoda dies, that entire film could just go fuck itself. Seriously, I can't even watch it anymore. And it's all to rescue Han, which could have been done way, way earlier, way, way easier, and didn't need to have a convoluted Muppet fest, CGI or otherwise. And then you get this whole thing of going to Yoda, and Yoda basically dropping the bomb that he's got a sister. And it's like, and then going, "Sister you have? Oh, by the way, I've just died. Old people." It's like, right, what? Why? Why have we got to have this sequence now? And I wouldn't mind, but even the reveal of Leia as a twin sister doesn't bring anything to that film. apart from one taunt from Vader, it doesn't add anything to that film. It just feels like they suddenly went, well, look what we did with Vader. What can we do now?
You say that, it kind of gets them out of it's a get out clause for the whole love triangle they were trying to build.
But you could still have that. You know, as we find out in later episodes or earlier prequels, Jedi is a celibate. I mean,
yes, but he doesn't know that.
Yeah, I know. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. It's like Han and Leia are. That's it. He's gone off on his spiritual
He's a Protestant Jedi. It's all right. He can.
Yeah.
The point
get his hand away
on the side. Yeah.
The point being is, it's a complete nonsense. It's like here's your twin sister, right? Okay, and that has added what to the plot? Nothing. Okay. Look, a monkey, and then it's just like, okay, now we just got to get Luke and Vader back together again.
You say it adds nothing. I mean, I got to disagree with that because again, it gets them out of this whole. It neatly gets them out of the whole love triangle thing between Han, Leia, and Luke. All of a sudden, Luke no longer has an interest, and that's fine. That's out of it. But again, it's the thing that finally pushes Luke over the edge. It's that taunt from Vader that finally pushes him over towards the dark side.
But you could have done that in a million other ways.
But they didn't do it in a million other ways, and the way they did it works. And also, it also sets up a thing that now Luke can potentially die, in so much as there is another Skywalker. If he didn't finish it, there's someone else who could carry the legacy of a Jedi on.
See, whereas while that's good to think about after you've left the cinema, the implication is never there on screen.
Still, I've had 30 odd years to think about this. I honestly don't get the level of hate for the first half of the film, but you're entitled to that opinion, absolutely. But for me, it's my third place because those things just don't bother me. To me, it's a bit like Search for Spock coming after Wrath of Khan. It's like, it's not as good at all as Wrath of Khan, but there's still bits in there I really, really enjoy, and I think you have to take one after the other to tell that story. It follows it on. It feels like the same narrative, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah, which is fine. And you know what? All opinions are welcome here. But I'm just because obviously we're doing our own individual top tens. But for me, the thing I find with Jedi is the same thing I found with Clones, which is essentially there's a TV episode's worth of actual story in there that's worth telling, and the rest is cocking about in the sand for an action sequence which isn't actually all that thrilling, if we're honest.
You see, I'm the other way. I'm like, I think there's a couple of sequences which I could happily do without, but on the whole, I think the film works quite nicely. Well, just out of interest, and again, this isn't a taunt or anything, I'm just generally curious. When was the last time you watched Return of the Jedi?
The last time I watched Return of the Jedi was when ITV were doing a whole run of them because they had the prequels and everything, and they did that. So it's probably about a year, 18 months ago, something like that. Okay,
so it's not like 15 years.
No. And we did it again for Black Dog a couple of years before that as well. And yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, just to show how I've changed my opinion, I mean, Jedi was the one film that was the first Star Wars film I went to see on my own without my parents. And I literally had like £10 in my pocket, and I remember coming out of the Odeon Bromley, walking straight out and joining the end of the queue to go back in again.
Nice.
And so I had, it's not like I didn't see a lot of it, didn't love it. But the thing was, it was a case of, as years have gone on, and I've matured, and I've watching all the other stuff that's come before and after and in between, for me, Jedi is a weak ass film. It's a weak ass film with some really strong stuff in it.
Because I just pulled it up here in front of me because I was curious about the thing about Jabbas Palace being half a film, because I generally didn't think it was that long. It's only half an hour long in a 2-hour, 10-minute film.
Okay.
After that, you've got the Dagobah stuff. But I mean, you're instantly, straight after they've left Tatooine, you're on the Death Star with the Emperor arriving.
No, then you've got the whole going down to Endor, and lots of the shit with the Ewoks to start with.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying that after Tatooine, you're already you got all that shit, absolutely. But I'm just saying the next bit is the Emperor arriving, and then you're off down onto the thing with the command ship. My son is with them.
Yes.
Are you sure, Lord Vader?
Are you sure?
Strange that I have not sensed him.
He will seek you out. He will seek out me. I mean, it is quotable, but it just after Jedi and looking back at things like New Hope and Empire, and later on Force Awakens, and Sith, and where there's more content and less faffing about. And that's the thing. Jedi is a lot of faffing about for essentially 2 decent showdowns. And that's how it feels to me now. But, I may look at it again another day and change my mind. But at the moment, it's right down there. It's not one of my favourite films. It's not a Star Wars film I would seek out to watch.
So where do you put it? 'Cause you haven't given us a number yet.
I've put it down at 6th.
Wow.
6th place. Yeah. There you go. Sorry.
Please direct all your hate mail to Mr. Lee Medcalf, courtesy of a Black Dog podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Feedback at blackdogpodcast.com. Thanks very much. So that just leaves us with the latest of the movies in the Skywalker saga, which is Force Awakens. And where do we all stand on that then? Well,
for me, I'm putting it 6. But I will add the rider that might change depending on what happens in the next 2 films. But just taking it on its own as what we've seen now, it's very pretty to look at. The effects are all great, but it feels a bit derivative. It feels a lot derivative. It is A New Hope. And there's a lot of things which I just feel missed opportunities and things which don't really make sense. It's I mean, hell, I think it was the How It Should Have Ended videos where they draw up the plans and they go, it's the Death Star. It's not the Death Star, it's Starkiller Base. It's the Death Star, it's just bigger.
Yeah.
Again, I like Rey, I like Finn, I like Poe. I like the fact they've gone back to traditional effects. I like Kylo. I think he's done well. But I could have really done without the Reptar bit in its entirety. I just feel that it's the problem is that they know this film they're doing 2 more, and it's very hard to judge it just on its own without knowing what's going to come. Now, when The Last Jedi comes out and whatever they're going to call Episode 9 comes out, that might well change my opinion, and I might go, this is great because shit in here now pays off over here, and that's awesome. But on the strength of it on its own, I'm going to have to put it at 6. It just feels too derivative and doesn't it doesn't have confidence in itself to tell its own story, in my opinion. It's just trying to tell A New Hope. And hell, they waste Max von Sydow. It's just
why? His part's gone.
Yes,
in seconds. It's worse than Christopher Lee, isn't it?
Well, let's be honest. Terrence Stamp in Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah.
Good point, well made. But the thing with Phantom Menace is there's a lot more to be angry about than shit like that.
Yeah.
Again, Force Awakens for me has huge potential. It might well move up the list later on. Hell, it might even have swapped with Rogue One by the next time I watch Rogue One. But as it currently stands, it just doesn't do enough for me to warrant to get any higher. It's also very weak source on the space battlefront. You got what, half a dozen X-Wings taking on Starkiller Base? I think there's even less X-Wings than there was in Attack of the Death Star, and there's no Y-Wings. Yeah. So, boo to you, sir.
A boo. to quote Mr. Pete.
Yes.
Okay then. Well, what about you, Pete? What did you put it down as?
Yeah, I've got it down as 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5th. Yeah, just below Rogue One. As I say, that might change over time. And primarily for the reasons that Andy have said, it is very derivative. Let's face it. But
you mean 6th because that's the only. Sorry, 4th because that's the only one you haven't.
No, 4th was Rogue One.
Oh, 4th was Rogue One. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Force Awakens.
Okay, and then 5th is Force Awakens. Okay, that's cool.
So yeah, I mean, but it's got some great characters. I mean, I love the new characters they introduced in that, and I like the way they for the most part, they've integrated the old characters. I could have done without C-3PO, to be honest, but there we go.
You're probably wondering how I got that red arm.
No, not at all.
No,
Fuck off.
actually, I'm not. Actually, I don't care.
And let's not forget that prima donna R2 only shows up at the end. It's bloody cameo. It's worse than Skywalker.
Yeah, he's just sitting there. Yeah, sorry, carry on, Pete.
And as Andy said, a lack of new spaceships as well is definitely hobbles it. You get. I think that's possibly why Rogue One scores better. At least it had some new ships in it.
Yeah. Whereas for me, I think it's my third favourite, and the reason I say that, it does have problems. I'll say this, and yes, you can redirect all your hate mail saying it's just New Hope over and over again at me. I'm just going to listen to that for about 10 seconds, and you can all fuck off. The reason I think it's my third favourite is because it has what the other two in my top three have, which is character and charm and fun and engagement. And for that, it's worth its weight in gold. Finn and Poe get a nice little bit on the Starkiller ship, the fucking Indominator or whatever it's called. I love all that. Finn and Rey work really well together. The whole thing of them hiding underneath the hiding in that spaceship while the Pac-Man monster goes around, which is a negative.
Yeah,
but there's that whole thing of her trying to open up a panel and fire it all out into space, and he's going, "What button should I pull?" And she goes, "That one." And he goes, "Why?" And she goes, "Shut up, that's why." But
droid, please.
Yes, droid, please. BB-8 thumbs up. You can't.
Can we just take a moment to acknowledge we all want a spin-off film with K2SO and BB-8 having adventures?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And for me, even though it fails on a couple of things, with situations like I think Kylo Ren's a great villain, but I don't think he's a strong villain yet. He doesn't have a threat about him that he's got to develop.
Yeah, so he's got to get out from Gollum's shadow.
Yeah, and and the Starkiller base, as you say, highly derivative, including the way they kill it by flying down a trench. But the rest of that film, for me, has more fun, charm, one-liners, nice character moments, interesting pacing, and the story is actually plodding from A to B in a nice sort of relatively quick pace over something like Jedi or something like, fucking Revenge of the Sith or Rogue One. And so for me, it does have a lot of problems, without a doubt, but I can't hate it. Because I sit there and it's that cuddly blanket feeling of watching characters kind of basically bicker and whinge at each other, but that they're having an adventure, and it's really fun.
Can I just add a disclaimer here? Of my films, the only two I actively dislike are Phantom Menace and Force Awakens.
Same here.
It's just when you have
degrees of liking. For the
exactly. Every other one I like. Absolutely, they're good films. If they're on TV, I will sit and watch them quite happily. The only two I won't bother are Attack of the Clones and Force Awakens. Not Force Awakens. Phantom Menace. Those two, no.
Okay, so just to be clear, because you changed it from where you started, because you said the only two I hated was Phantom Menace and Force Awakens.
I meant Attack of the Clones.
Thank you. Because
and let's face it, Harrison Ford has not been this good for a very, very long time. Possibly Last Crusade, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yes, he actually seemed to be having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to be in this film.
Yeah. and like I say, I absolutely detest the waste of like half the cast of the Raid in just a sequence with a CGI Pac-Man running around a spaceship.
Yeah.
Which was terrible. And again, it's another one of those missteps where you just go, I could lift this whole bit out and nothing would change.
Yeah.
But in terms of kind of fuck yes moments, the moment when, sort of Kylo Ren tries to pull the lightsaber out of the snow and it goes straight past him into Rey's hands was a proper punch the air. Fuck yes, here we go. And you know what?
Tell you what, I fucking adored the trailer for this film.
Yes,
so the music in that, so good.
And that's the thing. I think yes, it is derivative of A New Hope, but the thing about it is that what it does take from New Hope, it takes and does well. It doesn't fuck it up like Phantom Menace, or it doesn't try and fuck it up like it does with Jedi, which is essentially retelling.
In your opinion?
In my opinion. But the point is, it takes the elements it's supposedly, according to the fan base, ripping off, and does them well.
Yeah.
You've got characters that you like, interactions that are quite fun, action from start to finish, lovely reveals of things like the Falcon when you see it for the first time.
When you see the Falcon, that is so good.
Exactly.
Oh, because we knew it was in there, because we'd seen it on the trailers, but when you saw it, that was a fist bump moment right there. It was like, yes!
Exactly. And shit like that. And when Rey's flying it and she starts...
You see the same displays on the guns as well from A New Hope as well. Again, I like the film. I don't want it to come across me trying to say I don't like it. It's just, in my mind, there's 5 films I'd rate slightly higher.
That's perfectly fine. Whereas there's only 2 for me. Anyway, so there you go. And what about you, Pete? You just I think we have talked about it, and you have given us a score. But I'm just saying, is there anything you'd like to add, or?
No, I mean, I kind of echo Andy's comment about it. It could end up scoring more highly if they've seeded stuff in it that plays out later on. Alternatively, it could end up scoring more lowly if actually, a lot depends on how Kylo Ren pans out.
Yeah,
because potentially he could be a really interesting character, but it depends where they go from here with him, really.
Yeah, it depends whether or not.
And I want an explanation of what this whole new empire is about, whatever they're calling it these days.
The New Order.
First Order. It's
First
like
Order,
Return
sorry.
never happened. The Empire's still there. How's that come about? Bizarre.
Yeah.
And Snoke.
Snoke.
See, Snoke was for me the biggest problem I had with this. I could have done without Snoke and just had Kylo Ren as the big bad.
Yeah. To me, that whole thing was your plot drop. That was like comeback for episode 2 business. It was.
Have they met their fan base?
Yeah, they'll be back anyway. Yeah,
they watched Phantom Menace and still came for Attack of the Clones, and then came for Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, yeah. So there you go. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I thought what it did very well, and it was charming and interesting and fun, which I can't really say about things like Rogue One or Clones or Phantom Menace. But anyway, there you go. So that's our scoring system. So just to run through it, our top 8. At number 8, at the bottom of the pile, is Attack of the Clones. At number 7 is Phantom Menace. At number 6, we have Revenge of the Sith. At number 5, we have Force Awakens. Sorry, where am I going? I'm looking at the bloody wrong numbers, aren't I? So let's try that again, shall we? Let's just try that again, shall we, children? So at number 8, Clones. At number 7, Phantom Menace. At number 6, Revenge of the Sith. At number 5, Force Awakens. At number 4, Rogue One. At number 3, we have Return of the Jedi. At number 2, we have New Hope. And at number 1, solidly sitting right at the top, is Empire Strikes Back. So, there you go. Do you agree? Do you have a different top 8? Do you think that what we're saying is true or wrong or bollocks? Let us know. Put it on the Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/groups/SpaceDogJury, or let us know on Twitter, which is @SpaceDogJury, and one of us will either ignore you or send you rude words in return. So there you go. All good. So that's that. So do get in touch, and we'll move on from there.
We're doing Bond films next week. Oh wait, there's no spaceships in those.
actually, Moonraker, Diamonds
Not
Are
eligible,
Forever.
not interplanetary, doesn't count.
You only live twice? No, likewise.
All right then. Well, anyway, so that's it for our top 10-a-thon. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, tatty bye.
Bye-bye.
I should go.
Tickety-tong, oh fruit, down with the Nazis.
Space Dog Jury is a production of 3 Angry Beards for GeekPlanetOnline.com.